Alright everyone, so today's episode, I have some mixed feelings about our next episode, because there's some aspects about this episode that I like, but then there are some aspects about the episode that I'm not a huge fan of. But once we get through this episode, we'll about be halfway through Season 9. And that's kind of a little depressing for me when you think about it, but let's just get into it. This is Between Dark and Dawn. So our episode begins in Sweet Apple Acres, where apparently the main six have to basically help tame some type of colossal creature as we try to get the lowdown of what exactly is going on. And why the turtle surprisingly has a striking resemblance, but not entirely, but with the concept of having trees on shells similar to Torterra from Generation 4 Pokemon.
Mr. Tortoise said he was hungry. Promise me he would only take a few small bites. I don't think that thing knows what small is.
I really do like the scene when Spike is captured, as we do get to see the main six actually work together.
Applejack and Pink, you distract him. Rainbow Dash, Rarity, and Fluttershy, let's save Spike.
And that's what they do, as we get to see the main six's teamwork come into action as they basically do everything they can to rescue Spike.
Mr. Twister, I'm only asking nicely once. Let my friends go!
Frenzy plant!
No, that would be pretty awesome, though. No, instead the Taurus does actually happen, but before Twilight can actually use a spell to get the Taurus to disappear, Celestia and Luna show up out of nowhere to help tame this beast.
Take care of the beast!
The princess is actually handling an issue that's not a season premiere or finale.
All the times we've actually needed their help, and they show up for this?
I definitely like Rainbow Dash in this episode, where her meta humor is surprisingly funny in this episode. So Celestia and Luna end up teleporting the Taurus away, which is exactly what Twilight was gonna do anyways.
Oh, goodness, sister, that was fun! No need to thank us. To be honest, we've recently realized we like being part of the action.
I'm sure that was probably them making up for from the fans for the lack of times they were required to do, well, anything. But we kind of know where this is going to lead, whereas after the opening, we pretty much get a montage of the princesses basically showing up to help around town for the minorest of things, starting with Fluttershy accidentally stepping over a broken part of the bridge, and they literally just replaced the entire bridge on its own. We then see later that night where they actually show up to help Rainbow Dash just help the Cutie Mark Crusaders find their Philly Guide troop.
Did some ponies say, lost? Not for long. Oh, this is terrible. Miss Cheerily ordered cupcakes for school today, and I forgot to make the order. No biggie. Going hungry? Not on our watch.
Yeah, so basically after that, the rest of the main six basically come in to basically tell Twilight that the princesses are kind of kicking things a little bit too far, as basically now they've been showing up a lot more frequently over the most minute of details.
There's Granny Smith across the street. There wasn't even any traffic. It's not that we don't appreciate their help, but suddenly Celestia and Luna seem to think we can't do anything on our own. How are we supposed to learn to be rulers of Equestria with them fixing every teensy problem for us? Maybe the princesses changed their minds. Maybe they don't think we're up to the responsibility of protecting Equestria after all.
Well, they then show up to kind of get the lowdown as to why exactly they've been showing up a lot more frequently than they have in the past.
But is something wrong? It's just, you've been helping us an awful lot. And we know you have way more important rulery things to do, so... We spend more than enough time in the throne room. Real life is happening out here.
So yeah, so I really do like the concept of this episode, I will say, is that it basically kind of shows that ever since the princesses helped Star Swirl tame the Everfree Forest while the main six were battling King Sombra, they realized that they should have been want to get out more a little bit. So that's exactly what they decide to do.
Be sure Fluttershy is the only pony that does that. Well, there are way more fun things to do than follow us around. You should make a list of all the stuff we never tried but always wanted to. There's a lot of little things out there to do.
And that's exactly what the princesses do. They basically decide to set themselves up on the road trip to do every single thing that they wanted to do when not being stuck in the confines of the castle.
Yes, Pat. I can't wait to start planning our time off. A chance to do whatever we want.
The same feeling I get when I have PTO at work. And the latest thing that I'm going to be doing in about a few months is going on a cruise. And I think it's either Royal Caribbean or Disney. I think it's the former. But yeah, it's the first time I'm going to be going on a cruise. So Celestia and Luna planning out the cruise is kind of something I'm looking forward to.
And you know what that means. Relaxation!
But we do see kind of the conflicting ideas of how they want to relax, and that where Luna's is kind of more my speed, where basically I just kind of want to like lay around and kind of not want to like do much aside from being around my entertainment, while Celestia basically has a lust for the adventure type of activities.
My pony's intense dreams, so I could use some real world downtime. I understand, but for me every day is real world. Meetings and decrees and meetings about decrees and decrees about the meetings.
I can't help but crack about that logic.
Raise excitement! I'm not sure how we could both be happy. Unless we take turns doing what we like. Instagram!
And that's another plus I like about this episode, is that much like what we had in A Royal Problem, we get to see the princesses not just be, well, princesses, we do get to see them as actual sisters. And surprisingly, a lot of it just makes them very adorkable.
I have the perfect accessory for us to wear.
So she basically gets to make them wear like Hawaiian t-shirts, and basically Celestia comes prepared with all the more protective stuff.
Sanitizer and travel snacks. What do you think?
So before they leave, they basically decide to give Twilight a bit of an amulet to basically help control the sun and the moon, as they're going to leave them in charge of something.
Have fun. One more thing. We're leaving you in charge of raising the sun and moon while we're gone. We have put a small part of our power in this amulet. You can activate it with your magic at any time. Preferably dawn and dusk.
That's not a terrifying level of responsibility or anything.
We won't let you down, princesses.
Will you tell me that Swirl says what the royal swanifying is?
Yeah, so that's the activity, the royal swanifying, which is kind of a weird activity to call it, but Spike, give us the explanation of what exactly that is.
Apparently, it's a celebration of all the swans in the royal lake. Round them up, parade them through the streets, and finish with a party in the castle.
And apparently they have a bit of an attitude.
One question. Why?
Like I said, why is it that Rainbow Dash is the funniest one in the episode? And even though Piggy just gave us that funny line, it feels like that Yakety Sax just kind of ended up throwing off her game. But basically, Twilight thinks that they have the confidence to kind of handle this task kind of on their own. And Spike has shared some bit of concerns. So then we basically see Celestia and Luna basically traveling to do what they want to do.
Carefree ponies. We're leaving the princess life behind, and we're not even going to fly. Of course. How new and different. It's just like...
Yeah, so I gotta admit this next part, because this actually leads into our next song of the season, A Lot of Little Things. And honestly, I kind of like this song. I think not only just because it's Celestia and Luna's song, but we do get to see a lot of Easter eggs, mostly. By the way, the main Easter egg that I definitely want to give a shout out to is that, you know, the character Caper from the movie? He was one of the characters that I actually demanded to kind of have return in the show, and we do get a bit of a cameo. As for the song itself, I think it's fine. Well, no, not fine. I really do like it. I think it kind of teaches how, no matter what the little things are, as long as you enjoy spending time with your sister or sibling or any case, that you basically get to enjoy the traveling because you get to do what you guys want to do. And we basically kind of get to see what the princesses kind of do and kind of the interest of what I explained, where Celestia kind of has one of the more adventurous types of things, while Luna's kind of one of the more the relaxation things. Also, during the song, we get to see the princesses just have some adorable moments. Like the shot where basically they're in Manhattan, and Celestia just basically is just so overjoyed with seeing a lot of stuffed animals. It's just so adorable. And like I said, more adorable, I could say. But we do see during the song that, as I said, we do get to see their styles take more form. As like I said, Luna is kind of more like me on vacation, where I'm the type of person that just wants to relax and not really do much, while Celestia is kind of one of the more adventuring types, as we see that Celestia basically drags Luna to go on a roller coaster, and when Luna basically wants to do what she wants, which essentially is basically seeing a pony version of Wicked, we see that Celestia doesn't want to have any interest, and much like Twilight's mom, Celestia really has to force Luna into do some barrel old falls in Niagara Falls, or whatever they call this place. Because again, it basically kind of proves that Celestia is kind of an extremist. Especially when, in another scene, they have him basically go steering a sharks. But we do see that over the course of this montage, we do see the toll start to hit Luna as she starts to get a bit worn out. And I think that was basically kind of like me, because, well, even though as much as I know kind of walking around helps me kind of lose a lot of weight, the downside is that it kind of wears me out after a few hours. So we basically then cut back to the castle where we see Fancy Pants along with Jet setting up her crust, basically coming in to talk with the princesses, but instead have to talk to the main six, because I guess they didn't get the memo that, well, they're not here.
What can we help y'all with?
I say, how regular. Well then, we offer our assistance as heads of the Royal Swanifying Committee.
What a relief!
Thank you, but we have it all covered.
So thus, this leads to the next problem of the episode, is the entirety of the B-plot and this first issue, where Twilight thinks that the main six can do everything on their own without consulting, well, any of the other staff in Canterlot. We're 9 seasons in, and you would think that Twilight would realize that maybe getting help from others might be a good thing. This was especially a lesson that she taught Applejack all the way back in Applebuck season in season 1. But that is only one issue that I have on top of the laundry list of issues that I have with this entire B-plot. Now, unlike the escape room issue from All Balled Up, it's not boring, but there are some things about this that just makes this part of the episode incredibly infuriating to watch. Because Twilight thinks that they can do everything on their own, and again, this was something that she had to teach Applejack back in season 1.
Really? Well, good luck with that.
Oh, and another thing that I really don't like about this plot, about this episode, they basically make Fancy Pants a completely unlikable asshole. You know how I had that issue with how they made him in Princess Spike? Well, it's the same thing here, because it seems like it seems that the writers of this episode forgot to see Sweet and Elite, and forgot that basically, well, Fancy Pants was one of the few likable citizens in Canterlot, and basically they just turned him into a stuck-up jackass. The opposite of what he was in Sweet and Elite back in season 2. So that's 2 strikes against this B-plot that kind of brings this entire episode down, and naturally after this, the rest of the main six are kind of annoyed with Twilight.
We asked for help. It's just like admitting we're not as good at the job as Luna and Celestia are.
Why? What the fuck are you talking about? You're trying to say that you guys can't do anything on your own, but as rulers, you kind of have to listen to what other people want. Oh my god, you're pretty much making Liu Bei look like he's frickin' an Albert Einstein. Oh my god. So anyways, back to the plot that I actually care about. We do see Celestia and Luna do another activity that Celestia wants to do. Again, I just really like Celestia just being an adorable self and doing all of this. But like I said, we do see these activities basically kind of wear out on Luna, even though zip lining is not really all that scary. From what I've seen, is actually fun, or in the case of South Park, is completely boring, but that's kind of up to the user. So basically then, and they decide to do what Luna wants to do, and apparently it's going to the post office.
It's the post office! It is indeed. Just think, all the mail in Ponyville goes through here. Isn't that amazing?
Well, it would be amazing, Luna, except for the fact that this entire show has proven that the post office staff here in Equestria is basically kind of incompetent.
One stamp, please.
So basically we see Luna's excitement in just the minor everyday activities, but Celestia doesn't seem to get it. And then we basically see them basically kind of go into the creature from Star Wars where they had to escape out of the mouth. And apparently they get trapped inside.
I have always wanted to try this.
And then we get to see if Luna just somehow basically turn herself into an 80s style pony, while basically Celestia basically starts to, well, turn herself into a goth pony. We then get to reprise a lot of little things, but it's a lot more drearier because we do see kind of the different types of adventures that Celestia and Luna like to do, whereas Luna likes to look at fine arts and Celestia has the role of adventures. And we do get to see one scene where a pony takes this active picture. But basically that we see that these trips start to take their toll on Celestia and Luna as they basically start to become a bit more irritable with each other. We then cut back to the B plot where basically Fancy Pants comes in and decides he wants to be a jackass to the main six. Again, this is the same guy that wasn't those things where he found the main six to be charming and rustic and sweet and elite. I'm going to keep harping on this and keep bringing this up considering what he's about to say to them.
Yes, Twilight. It has come to our attention that you don't intend to serve watercress at the Royal Swanifying Ceremony.
There's not enough in the castle kitchen to...
Don't tell me. Tell him.
Okay, I'll tell him this. White meat or roasted?
And you must do something about the garbage piling up outside. The street sweepers are on strike, and the royal carpenters can't do their jobs.
Royal carpenters. Can we kind of look up the job piles that goes on here in Equestria?
Do you even know there were Royal Street carpenters?
Oh dear. I do hope those aren't the final decorations for the gun.
You know,
What the fuck is your problem?
yeah, that's kind of what I want to say to Fancy Pants, because this is completely out of character for him, given how he's usually the most level-headed citizen in canon-wise, but between Princess Spike and this episode, he's basically just as stuck up as every other citizen in Equestria. So anyways, back to the plot that I actually care about. We do, as I said, we do see that the trip starts to take its toll on Celestia and Luna, where they're kind of eating lunch, having on the opposite end of each other, where they basically start to become a bit more irritable with one another.
Well, they hurt less than that horrible howling you dragged us to. That was pointed at you. And if there's you made us leave early even though it was still my turn. So just face it, Luna. You are never happy. Because you don't want me to be happy. I always have to do things your way. I bet you wish I'd never come back so you could still rule day and night.
Well, that's a really depressing thought when you think about it, considering that was the main conflict in the series premiere, where basically Luna ended up getting banished to the moon after transforming in the Nightmare Moon, so that's something depressing to think about.
You think I like that kind of pressure? Being responsible for every little thing in Equestria and you? What I'd like is a sister I can depend on. You mean boss around? Calm down, Luna.
It's kind of refreshing to see Celestia use the royal Canterlot voice, considering so far we have seen Luna be the only one to use it. But to see them kind of use the Canterlot voice in an argument like this is obviously kind of intense and a little heartbreaking to see. And essentially, this ends up causing the two of them to kind of separate. And back to the other plot, we basically see that the main six start to panic because they think they have to do everything on their own, but I think for the most part, they manage to have a mostly handle on it.
So we're just going to have to do a sequence.
Sorry for the bad news, but the courtyard is full of swans waiting to get in.
We're nowhere near ready. Celestia and Luna rule a kingdom and get all this done by themselves every year.
Oh, how dreadful.
What's the funny part exactly?
The princesses never do all the ceremony planning by themselves.
They don't?
Goodness no. That's what the gala planning committees are for. No pony can handle all this.
Yeah, somebody probably should have told them this well, probably 10 minutes ago.
Of this sequence?
Still rude.
Yeah, so even though Fancy Stance has a point, I still have to ask this question.
Why does everything you say make me want to bash your face in?
Seriously, what is it with him in this episode? I don't get it. So, anyways, this gives Twilight something that she probably should have thought of at the beginning of this episode instead of pushing the committee away. But essentially, they start delegating to get the mess cleaned up.
So this is how you rule Equestria.
No fucking shit!
So, anyways, back to the other plot. We do see that Celestia and Luna start to think that they could do everything on their own, but essentially they start to come to the realization that, well, they kind of need their sisters, as Luna ends up getting sunburned, and Celestia ends up getting lost, and for whatever reason, she has a massive fear of chickens. I don't get it. But eventually the two end up reuniting, and they kind of talk about their issues.
Watch the sunrise. I'm here for the moonset. So, how did the rest of your day go? Oh, amazing. Yeah, fantastic. Best ever, really. Yeah, me too. You can walk with me, if you want to. Oh, well, since we're going the same way.
So they basically go over to see the sunrise as they then talk about their issues.
Lucky star! You taught me to look for those when I was a silly. Hope I wasn't too bossy doing it. Being with your sister all the time is hard, but being without her, it's even harder. I do know. And I wouldn't trade you for any of the adventures on my list. Not even your zip line? Not even my zip line. I'm sorry I said those things before. Sometimes it just sucks being the little sister. It's not always easy being the big sister either. I'm sorry too.
I really like this moral a lot because it kind of shows the dilemma between older sibling and younger sibling, where they each have their own issues, but seeing Celestia and Luna kind of basically come together to talk about their issues shows that they still really love each other. So I really do like this moral a lot, where basically no matter what siblings will still love each other no matter what and can talk about a lot of their issues. So essentially they do see that Twilight, for whatever reason, has no clue how to control the sun and the moon, and they decide to go back to help her. As we also see in the same scene, Twilight ends up breaking the amulet.
I have to turn.
Does any pony have some paint?
Alright, so that was between dark and dawn. Okay, now, this is what I will say. I do like this episode. I really do. But there are some aspects about this episode that kind of makes it infuriating. So, this episode overall is good, but it has some serious problems. Obviously, the main con I have with this episode is the entirety of the B plot. I'll give it this, it's not really boring, but the issue that I have with it is that basically the B plot basically makes the main six look completely incompetent, having no idea how to ask for help. Mainly Twilight's the one at fault for this. They also make Fancy Plant into a complete and total asshole, which I don't appreciate at all, and basically it takes Twilight the entirety of the episode to figure out that you do need to ask for help in this situation when ruling a kingdom. And it's very insufferable to watch. The entirety of the B-plot, while not many as issues as egregious, those two major issues make this part infuriating to watch, where I just want to skip over it, because it basically takes away from the part of the episode that I actually care about, which is the traveling between Celestia and Luna. And that part of the episode is really good, where we do get to see more insights of Luna and Celestia as characters, where we see Luna be a lot more laid back and Celestia having a thrill for adventure, but we also see what they're like without each other and why they need each other. The song, of course, Wild Little Things, is very fun to listen to, if, again, Hasbro will allow you to listen to it, but because if they refuse to release the soundtrack for the remaining 3 seasons or so, we'll never hear it. But again, we do get to see a lot of inner dynamics between them and get to see them more, and we see why the relationship is so fluid. If we just focus on that aspect of the episode, this would be a solid episode, probably in my top 5. But I'm sorry, I have to critique the episode as is. And as good as this episode is, the B plot of basically ultimately making, number one, making Fancy Pants one of the few Canterlot citizens into a stuck-up jackass, and making the main six completely incompetent and not asking for their help and having no idea how to run this until much later in the episode, those are serious strikes against this episode. So I can't call this episode great or perfect in no sense. I'm sorry, but no. As good as I think that this episode is, I can't give it one of my favorites if one half of the episode is more infuriating to watch with the other half. So you saw all I had to put up with in this episode, and it's not what I consider to be my favorite. Like I said, it's still a good episode on its own, but let's just say I have a love-hate relationship with this episode. So as a whole, I probably have to give between Dark and Dawn probably a B. I would have been, honestly, I was thinking about giving it a B-, but there are some good things about this episode that I do like that can counteract the balance. And even though it's only 2 negatives of this episode, it's 2 extreme negatives that I can't call this episode perfect. So like I said, I still think that Between Dark and Dawn is a good episode, but it's not one of my favorites. I'll have to call it a love-hate relationship with this episode. So my final ranking with Between Dark and Dawn is going to have to be a B. It's still a good episode, but there are some serious issues with it that are holding it back from being one of the greats. Alright, and with that, and I cannot believe that these words are coming out of my mouth, but we're now officially halfway through Season 9. I cannot believe that I actually managed to do this. So, I don't know what I want to do next time, because there's one other special that the show released that does the same style of animation from the 2017 movie that was released on TV. I don't know if I want to cover that next, considering that it is a full hour, and considering how long it took me to review the Best Gift Ever special, I don't know if I can squeeze in a full hour to do it. But I guess maybe I can give it my own review, but I'm just going to stick to what I have. So next time we're going to jump into the first episode of our second half of Season 9. So next time we will be covering The Last Laugh. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.